Paul compliments her hair, saying it's getting long and feels soft. Nina thanks him, and then they kiss. As Dot walks back to her room, she notices that Nina's bedroom door is slightly open. Peeking inside, she sees Nina and Paul being intimate in bed. Flashback to a few days ago. A deaf high school student named Dot shares how she often feels unseen even when surrounded by people. She sits alone in a crowded cafeteria. Across from her is her stepsister Nina, who is laughing loudly with her best friend Michelle. They're chatting about how they want to hook up with their attractive classmate, Connor. When Nina sees Dot looking at them, she snaps at her in anger. Michelle mocks Nina, saying they brought a weirdo into their home. Their guidance counselor, Mrs. Feltzwater, comes over and asks Dot if she can join her. Instead of answering, Dot stands up and walks away. She hides in her usual spot, the stall inside the girls' restroom. Nina finds her there and drags her out angrily so they can go home. At their house, Nina's mother, Olivia, is preparing dinner. She urges Nina to give Dot a chance and accept her as part of the family. Nina argues that it wasn't her idea to bring Dot in and throws an insult at her. Olivia reminds Nina to stop talking like that because Dot can read lips. Olivia works as an interior designer, and her husband, Paul, is an architect. Paul runs into Mrs. Feltzwater at the pharmacy while picking up painkillers for Olivia. The counselor tells him she's worried because Dot doesn't seem happy at school. Paul shares that Dot recently lost her dad, while her mom died when she was only 7. Mrs. Feltzwater praises him, saying he's a kind man for taking Dot in. Later that night, Paul comes home and greets the girls. Nina, who is cooking, vents about her strange stepsister. Then she mentions that her mom fainted in the living room, so Paul hurries over. While he's gone, Nina grabs some pills from the pharmacy bag and offers some to Dot. Dot refuses, so Nina takes them herself. Paul carries Olivia to bed and gives her the pain medication. He stares at her, which makes her defensive, so she explains it's for her hip pain. Olivia then gets upset, thinking Paul is accusing her of not doing enough for their family. At dinner, Paul brings up the idea of all of them learning sign language together. Nina clearly isn't thrilled that Dot is staying. She asks if she can sleep at Michelle's place, telling her dad that she wants to give him time alone with his new daughter. At school, students are assigned to dissect a piglet for a science lab. Dot is paired with Connor. She slices the piglet a bit too roughly, and the teacher asks her to slow down and be more careful. In the cafeteria, Michelle complains that the weird girl got paired with Connor. Then they start talking about how Nina still hasn't had her first time. Michelle urges her to go for it, saying she can get any guy she wants. Later, they see Dot using sign language with the lunch lady, and Michelle mocks her again. While walking in the hallway, Dot notices an empty music room and quietly steps inside. She sits down at the piano and begins playing a soft, beautiful tune. As Connor passes by with his friends, he hears the music and stops to watch. But when one of his friends tries to look too, he quickly pulls him away. Later, Dot heads to the restroom and runs into Nina. Nina tells her she needs a little color and applies lipstick on her lips. While doing this, Nina mentions she felt bad that they stopped spending time together after Dot's mom passed away. But once Nina leaves, Dot looks in the mirror and sees that the lipstick was smeared all over her mouth. That night, Nina tells her father she didn't do well on a quiz. Paul compliments her hair, saying it's getting long and feels soft. Nina thanks him, and then they kiss. Meanwhile, Dot lies awake, unable to sleep. She pulls out a box that holds her father's ashes and shares how he became her whole world after her mom died. Her dad, who was also deaf, was hit by a truck while crossing the street. Dot takes some of the ashes out of the box. She tastes a bit and rubs some onto her face. Afterward, she heads to the bathroom to wash up. She expresses deep regret, saying she could have saved him if only she had been there. As Dot walks back to her room, she notices that Nina's bedroom door is slightly open. Peeking inside, she sees Nina and Paul being intimate in bed. Disturbed, she hurries back to her room and lies awake, keeping what she saw to herself. During dinner, Nina once again asks if she can spend the night at Michelle's house. Paul tells her no, saying it's a school night, but Olivia disagrees. Nina then runs her leg against his and says she's finished all her homework. Just then, Michelle calls, and Nina steps away to take the call. Paul leaves the table angrily, and Olivia follows him to argue. He tells her she's making it hard for him to discipline Nina properly. Later on, Olivia talks to Dot about her mother, who used to be her friend back in school. She says Dot's mom was lucky for not marrying the first guy she dated, unlike herself. Dot hands her a note asking if she can go to the movies. Olivia says she'll take her, but Paul steps in, saying Olivia's not in good shape to drive, and offers to take Dot instead. Sitting beside Paul in the car makes Dot feel uneasy. At the theater, Dot sits alone in the back row and notices Nina with Connor and their group. Connor asks if Dot can join them, but the others say no. Fiona jokes about how gloomy it must be not to hear, and Nina cuts in, saying Dot lost her hearing when she was 7, which makes it even sadder than being born deaf. They laugh at her. As the movie starts, Nina mimics a deaf person by covering her ears, then glances back at Dot. That night, Dot still can't sleep. When she sees Paul coming downstairs, she quickly pretends to be asleep. Paul quietly enters her room, sits beside her, and mutters that he's not well, saying he thought things would improve when Dot moved in. The next day, Dot sits alone at her usual table. Across from her, Nina and her friends talk about going to Brian's house while his parents are gone. Michelle suggests Nina sneak out and swipe some pills from her mom. Nina hesitates, but Michelle eggs her on, saying it's her chance to finally be with Connor. At home, Dot plays the piano in the living room. Nina comes in quietly and watches her without saying anything. Suddenly, a string snaps and Dot blurts out a curse. Nina is startled and hides, confused. Then Dot hums as she adjusts the keys, and Nina starts to suspect that Dot might not be deaf after all. Nina makes some noise at the door and pretends she just got home. She greets Dot casually, as if she hadn't seen a thing. The following day, Nina sits beside Dot at the lunch table. As Dot eats her sandwich, Nina says she feels like she can talk about anything around her since Dot can't hear. She then starts throwing insults and tells Dot how much she despises her. Leaning in close, she whispers what she and her father do in bed. She then reveals her plan to end it all using Michelle's dad's gun because she hates what's going on between her and Paul. She says she's going to do it that night after Michelle brings the gun. Dot gives no sign she heard any of it. Frustrated, Nina walks away. Later, Dot plays the piano again in the music room. When she notices Connor watching from the doorway, she stops and gets ready to leave. Connor asks if they can meet up to work on their lab report, but Dot pulls out the completed paper from her bag. She leaves, and Connor stands there, disappointed. During dinner, someone rings the doorbell. It's Connor. Nina thinks he's there for Michelle, but he says he came to see Dot and asks if she can join him at the library for their report. Michelle arrives and quietly hands Nina a paper bag, which Nina hides. Dot keeps glancing at the bag, and Nina snaps, asking what she's staring at. Dot doesn't answer and leaves with Connor. Later that night, Nina and Michelle are chatting in Nina's room. Paul enters and tells Nina to send Michelle home since it's a school night. Annoyed, Nina asks Michelle to leave and says she can't go to Brian's party. Michelle storms out angrily. Meanwhile, Connor and Dot go to a diner. He starts by asking about the lab report, but soon opens up and admits he likes her. He shyly asks if she's a virgin like he is, but Dot stays silent. Then she spots an ambulance rushing past outside and quickly heads home. Back at the house, Dot sees the bag left on a chair. She checks it and finds that it doesn't hold a gun, but instead some adult DVDs. She walks to Nina's room and hears her and Paul being intimate. Disturbed, Dot picks up a statue and smashes it. Nina comes out to get a dustpan. Paul comes out next and tells Dot to be more careful around the house. The two girls clean up the broken pieces together. Later, Nina lies in bed crying. She speaks, thinking her father is beside her, saying she's tired. But it's actually Dot. Dot holds her gently, and they both fall asleep. The next day, while ironing her cheerleading uniform, Nina tells Dot that tonight is the night she's finally going to end her father's life. She adds that it's a good thing Dot can't hear, or else she'd be seen as part of the crime. Nina burns the teddy bear's face and throws it at Dot. That night, Dot tries to call the child welfare hotline from a payphone, but when someone picks up, she hangs up without saying a word. At the school gym, Connor is playing in a basketball game but performs poorly and ends up benched. Dot walks into the gym and watches the game quietly. Nina and Michelle are cheering on the sidelines. After the game, Dot signals Connor to keep quiet and leads him into the empty school pool area. He talks about how disappointed he feels about the game. Then, in a softer tone, he talks about going on road trips with her, but when she looks away, he suddenly opens up about his private habits and confesses some inappropriate things. Meanwhile, Olivia takes more pills and tells Paul she thinks Connor is a good match for Nina. Paul becomes angry and tells her to stop pushing Nina to date or dress in ways he doesn't approve of. Olivia then asks if she's gaining weight and removes her robe. Paul brushes her off and goes to bed. Back at the pool, Connor lies beside Dot and says he's kissed a lot of girls but has never gone further. Dot gets up, takes off her shirt, undresses Connor, and they share a kiss. Later that night, Nina arrives home and finds her father eating ice cream in the kitchen. Paul gives her an expensive bag, and when she thanks him, he begins to touch her. She stops him, removes her skirt, and tells him she'll be in her room. Meanwhile, Dot and Connor are intimate by the pool. Dot doesn't seem to enjoy it. When she notices the clock approaching midnight, she leaves Connor and hurries home. Paul sneaks into the bedroom to get a candle, and it seems Olivia is awake but doesn't say anything. Nina is ironing her uniform while fending off Paul's unwanted advances. She tells him she has a surprise and asks him to sit down and close his eyes. Just as she's about to strike him with the iron, Dot slams the front door, and Nina stops. Dot pauses outside Nina's room, listening in. Nina then tells her father that she's pregnant with his child. Paul becomes furious and demands to know what she plans to do. Nina asks for $1,000 in cash for an abortion. Paul agrees and walks away. Nina later climbs into Dot's bed and tells her that she couldn't go through with it. At lunch, Connor asks the lunch lady to help him talk to Dot. He asks if she'll go to the spring fling dance with him. Dot says no, telling him he's not right for her and that she prefers to be alone. Then she walks away. Michelle starts ranting about Dot, but Nina steps in and tells her to back off. That night in Dot's room, Nina brings a dress for the dance. She tells Dot she's leaving the house for good and plans to use the money to start fresh. She jokes that maybe she'll get a job at a bar, or even become a dancer. She admits she lied about being pregnant. Before she leaves, she gently puts lipstick on Dot, and this time, it's perfectly done. Dot tries the dress on, but then takes it off and wipes away the lipstick. She's decided not to go. Nina asks her to share her secret, but Dot walks away. Olivia stares silently at the wall while Dot plays the piano downstairs. Nina sneaks into her parents' room to take more pills while Paul, inside Nina's room, finds tampons in her bag. He confronts her for lying about the pregnancy and shows her what he found. Nina claims they belong to Michelle, but Paul doesn't believe her. He calls her a disgrace and begins to hurt her before trying to force himself on her. Olivia hears the struggle from downstairs. She cries quietly but does nothing. Dot suddenly stops playing and pulls out a piano string. She rushes in and strangles Paul from behind. She yells at him to get off Nina and leave her alone. Paul collapses on the floor, no longer moving. Nina sobs and screams at Dot. Behind them, Olivia stands frozen in shock. Then she quietly says it's a miracle. Dot can hear. Michelle shows up at the door to pick Nina up for the dance. Outside, Dot tells Nina to stick to the plan about hiding the backpack. Connor spots Dot and asks her to dance. He takes the backpack off her shoulders and places it on a chair, then leads her to the dance floor. Nina takes the backpack and hides in a bathroom stall. Meanwhile, Olivia sits quietly in bed, next to Paul's lifeless body. Dot walks away from Connor, and he follows her. He calls out and asks her to turn around. When she does, he asks if she can hear him. Dot quietly says, "Sorry." Connor is stunned to realize that she can both hear and speak. Shocked, he calls her crazy. He becomes furious, realizing she heard everything he had told her in private. Dot tries to say sorry again, but he curses at her and storms off. Dot grabs Nina and they run together into the woods, stopping by the edge of a creek. They pull the stained clothes out of the backpack and begin to dig a hole. While digging, Nina asks Dot why she pretended to be deaf all this time. Dot explains that it was her way of staying close to her father and being unnoticed by others. Nina tells her she doesn't have to keep pretending anymore, because she wants them to be close. Dot smiles. They finish burying the clothes and head back home. When they get back, they see the police taking Olivia away. Olivia tells Nina that she was the one who ended Paul's life, saying she strangled him with a piano wire after he lost control. Olivia says she only did it to protect Nina and keep her safe. The film ends with Nina sitting at the piano, trying to play. Dot joins her and begins to play alongside. Dot says in her mind that being invisible is not worth it in the end, because when no one sees you, it doesn't stop you from seeing everything they do.